Jorge Martin, who is definitely free to leave Aprilia, so he's told us, so his management has told us, decided he's not so free to leave Aprilia after all. Spanish media has reported that the decision has been taken on Martin's side that any sort of dispute with Aprilia over where he rides in 2026 would not be worth it, and that he will continue, I say continue as if he's done more than one race, with the new Audi manufacturer in 2026. They've already just tested very recently before, so as insane as that sounds, carry on as is.
Yeah, essentially, pretty much. I think what we've discovered, what it's probably come down to, let's be honest, is a realization from Jorge Martin and his management of just how much it's probably likely going to cost to go to court with Aprilia. It would probably have ended up in the Court of Arbitration for Sport, because that's the kind of ultimate guarantor of contracts in professional sport. It would easily have cost them probably the difference that he would have earned maybe going to ride for Honda next year and the extra money that they've supposedly offered him. So he was on a no-win course, essentially. It was going to be a long, fraught process. It was going to distract further from the job of actually racing MotoGP. It was completely going to poison the well with Aprilia, just as he's on the verge of coming back to a bike that, let's be honest, is looking really, really good once again here at the Sachsenring this weekend. So why sacrifice not just your kind of focus away from racing for the next few months, but also your focus at racing as well by poisoning everything with the team whenever there's a good bike there, a bike that's, let's be honest, better looking now than it was whenever all of this nonsense started with Aprilia back just after the French Grand Prix at Le Mans. Calm things down, ride the bike, get on with the job at hand, and see where 2026 takes him and the team at this point.
Yeah, I got to take the L on this one, because I imagined that because the whole thing has been started, the clause is presumably firmer than it's actually turned out to be, because if the clause was as simple as it is, then there shouldn't have been really a fear of a long drawn-out legal process. You know, I think the longer term of this is very interesting, but before we get to that, it's a big win by Aprilia. They were going to be in a really difficult situation rider-wise if Martin, even if they figured out a compensation situation with Martin, and suddenly now the truism in motorsport is once a rider, driver, whatever, has decided they're not going to continue with you, only thing you can do is recoup your losses. Aprilia seems to have proven that is not the case.
Aprilia have, to me, played this so sensibly from day one, because they've never said that they wanted rid of Jorge Martin. They've been the guys that have been out kind of reassuring him and his management that this all looked pretty good, that they were going to find a way to resolve it, that there was no long-term complications or issues here, that essentially it was all fixable. And, guess what? We've got to this point now where they found a way to fix it. They've reassured him that he should stay with them. They've built a bike that's good enough for it. They've never ever said we don't want him. They've never ever said anything really beyond we will resolve this through every means necessary, without even going as far as kind of saying court is the option here. They've been played a sensible strategy from Massimo Rivola, from his squad around him. They've not slandered anyone in the media. They've not attacked. They've only defended. They, I think, played a really successful strategy at the Aprilia All-Stars event back in May, when they brought Martin into the family and put an arm around him and reassured him that there was always a home for him should he change his mind about this, while also working to change his mind. And here we are in a position where he's decided that actually staying is the best option for him.
They've pushed for this very test allowance that they didn't expect they'd have to use again, because of course Martin got injured twice, got injured 3 times, but he got injured twice in season effectively. So they couldn't use that injured test allowance when they initially pitched it, but it was like, let's introduce it immediately for the next case. And Jorge Martin almost ended up being the next case. So it shows it's good to take care of your riders and to, fulfill their interests, because I don't know how much would we get to this situation without the Brno test. Of course, Jorge Martin will race at Brno next weekend, assuming, health holds up through FP1, etc. It's going to be a very interesting Thursday media session, I presume. And I presume they'll put him in the press conference.
I'd imagine he'll be in the door in a press conference.
But there's still clearly details to iron out. We've heard that, the same Spanish reporting says that there is still a hope on the Martin side of things to get some extra earnings in terms of the clause. I'd be interested to see how that works and how that plays out, because I just can't imagine the situation. Thanks for the work this weekend, guys. See you on Monday in court. just not how things work normally.
I mean, what I presume that means is that they're going to go to Aprilia and say, look, we've been offered X by Honda. It's Y more than you were going to offer us, but we're not going to take it. Everything's calm. We're going to stay where we are. Let's pretend none of this happened. But if you wanted to add Y, which is half of X to our deal, that would be pretty nice. You know, that would be a nice way to say, let's all forget this. And I'm not saying it's a bribe, but it's a nice way to kind of add that final step to the whole, we really want you to ride for us next year deal that they've done such a good job so far of displaying.
I think it's a minor blow for Honda. I don't think it's catastrophic necessarily, but there seem to be formulating a really good Honda lineup concept idea of having Jorge Martin partner the under contract Joan Mir at the main factory Honda team, and then moving Luca Marini to the LCR team, maybe sacrificing the Idemitsu backing for the entry with Samkat Chantra to have the four strongest riders you can have in the current situation. The debate there is whether 2026 matters so much massively to Honda, and I think its next moves, really considering it's reinforced itself with Romano Albiciano. This weekend all but confirmed that it's reinforcing itself with KTM engine boss Kurt Trieb, which is what a signing, right? I mean, when you think KTM, what do you think? You think engine. You think engine that goes on the straight. So they're setting all the building blocks for 2027. The one building block that's still missing is the franchise rider. And it looked like they had figured out an idea to shortcut their way to that. Now, not so much, right?
But it's also worth noting that whenever all of this started to happen in May, the Honda actually looked to be in a bit of a better position than it is right now. It looked to be a more complete package, because I think the waters have been a bit muddied, and it isn't as strong as we thought it was back then. I think that's fair to say. So maybe that's taken a bit of pressure off Honda to make that deal happen, because now they've been able to say, actually, you know what? All right, we didn't get him this year, but how long is it going to take into the 2026 season before they announce they've signed Jorge Martin for 2027? Because that's still entirely possible. And really, it doesn't set back Honda at all. It doesn't set back anyone apart from Aprilia, I guess, who lose that big star rider, which, let's be honest, is something that they had to kind of presume might happen because of the weird circumstances in which they signed Jorge Martin in the first place, where it was kind of this bizarre rush decision as the fallout from Ducati happened and he needed a new home, and Aleix Espargaro was there to negotiate it, and the contract came together in 6 hours at a Monday test in Mugello. So I think they had to presume that was the case anyway. You know what? It's not the end of the world, because Marco Bezzecchi's doing a damn fine job for them, and will be a lovely Italian figurehead to take that team forward into the new engine regulation cycle with anyway. So I think, really, we found a way, bizarrely, for a rider to announce mid-season that he was leaving his factory team, and for everyone to come out of it a winner, including the rider who's staying where he was. That never happens.
Yeah, there's two things I want to point out there, or argue there somewhat. Firstly, the RSGP is good. It's a good bike. I still think it is important to note that it's flirting with the last rank of concessions here. It's not a Ducati beater, apart from very, very specific circumstances. So I think,
although it should be pointed out that no bike in MotoGP right now is.
Absolutely true, but it's like, if you're Jorge Martin, does it matter whether it's the second best or the fifth best? I guess we'll find out at Brno. And the other thing for me is, and I also keep thinking this, they won the battle, it seems. The war's still going on. And, if all at the end of this, we've sorted this out and Martin gets to bring himself back into race fitness as part of Aprilia, gets to ride Aprilia's better RSGPs than what Honda can offer with the RC2V1, I tried, look.
The RC213V.
Thank you. I know what it is. I know what it is. I'm just terrible. But what then happens if, I don't think they're going to win the championship in 26. And then for 27, it's kind of start from scratch again. So you've won the battle. Do you really have a chance of winning the war?
Does anyone really care at this point? Given that there's a new regulation cycle coming and that anything could happen, I don't know if it's that important right now to be thinking super long-term plans. I don't think any manufacturer is, in the way that we've seen in the past. No one is suggesting that this is the time to be signing 4-year deals with riders like we've seen in previous years. So maybe just get through 26 and see what happens. Get Martin onto the 27 bike as soon as possible and hope that it's good. We don't know anything of what that looks like yet, but we've got to presume that there's going to be some sort of allowance for both private testing with the 27 bikes and the Pirellis, and some sort of mid-season public tests, general tests for the paddock, where riders have the chance to ride the new machines. And maybe, I think everyone is going to be using those as stalls to lay out to see what happens, because right now, who knows?